Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 96, where I answered e4 with e5, and my opponent selected the Scotch game, d4. After knight f3, knight c6, d4. This is a Scotch game. So I went ahead and took, which is the normal move. I'm going to leave the engine on for this video. Although there actually will be a tactical quiz opportunity about a line not shown here. Anyway, the normal move is to take the pawn and then recapture. And then the two main moves here are bishop c5 or knight f6. I don't know anything about these other moves. Knight f6 is a bit tricky. White can push on with e5, and then you're supposed to pin the pawn with the queen, and then other stuff happens. Gets complicated. So I chose to learn the bishop c5 line. And bishop e3 is one of the main responses. The other thing you should know about is if knight takes c6, I'll go ahead and show this one. If knight takes c6, then you have this move queen to f3, which threatens checkmate and also attacks the knight. So you're not giving up a piece or anything. You're just using this trick to get the piece back. Queen d2 is normally played, and then you take the knight. And so it's just a way of getting that knight back without messing up your pawns, and that's the best way for black to play. But my opponent didn't play that. He played the other line. He played bishop e3, and looks like queen f6 is a move here anyway, but I prefer bishop b6. I just don't see the point in developing the queen that early here. And you can see it's still an even game. Maybe the other move is slightly better in the computer's estimation. But this move c3 is probably a mistake. Knight c3, the more logical continuation, just developing. Knight f5 is interesting move. I don't know what to say about knight f5. It threatens this pawn on g7. Let's take a look at that one too while we're here. Knight f5, bishop takes e3, and then knight takes. I guess if he answered pawn takes, and just g6, kicking the knight. Okay, so I guess taking on g7 is not to be feared. Okay, just saw that as a weird move. Anyway, he played c3, and I did not play d5. I played knight f6 here. I played, no, I'm sorry. This is where I played d6. Okay. Yeah, that's what it says, d6. And he played bishop c4, and so we're out of the book at this point. So let's go take a look at the notation tab. And you'll see black is pretty much equalized, maybe even has a slight edge here. So I'm doing fine so far. And continue with just normal developing moves. And I'm just trying to find good squares for my pieces. This is an interesting point here. After f4, I briefly considered moving a knight to g4, but I didn't see the advantage of it. In fact, I think I thought I was losing it. But if you see, I have another knight and a bishop that support it there. So knight to g4 is a possible move here. Anyway, I played knight g6, second choice. Rook f3, not the best move, a little premature maybe. And but he does get an attack going, and it's always a bit tricky, and you'll see actually that white has the advantage here. So you might think it was all like a one-sided game just from watching the video, but there are places here where I was in trouble. And but so far black is doing fine, and we'll highlight my mistake shortly. So this was one of those interesting moments here. The computer, after you give it a while to think, is completely ignoring this threat on there's this threat on g7, which looks pretty deadly. Okay, there it does give g6 as a move, which is what I played. But it also says you can play this move knight takes d4, which is pretty crazy. So what happens, and it thinks the best reply is c takes d4. You have to ask yourself, what's going to happen if he takes with the rook? Gives that as a move. How about if he takes with the bishop too? Oh, I guess if he takes with the bishop, you have knight takes here, check. And then retakes. And then you just need some move. Let's see how that would go. So bishop takes here. Yeah, knight takes e2 check. How about queen takes e2? What's wrong with that? Not a legal move. Oh, it's a double check. Ah, I'm totally missing that. It's a double check, so the king has to move, and then you can eat the rook. So you can take the rook. So, okay, that's why bishop takes d4 is not a move. Bishop takes g7, so rook takes g7 is a possible move. Just not the best. And king h8, the only way to play it. And then retake this knight, so you get the knight back. Take here a check. King h1, and now knight takes e4, picking up a pawn and attacking the rook. And okay, so here's your quiz opportunity. It was in this line. I thought, well, why not just bring the rook back here, attacking these pieces? Isn't this good for white? And the answer is no, it's not good for white. It's very bad. Do you see why? Okay, if you don't see it right away, pause the video and look at it. You should be able to spot the answer here. I'm going to give it away. The answer is if you play if you play rook to g4, then knight here is a massive fork, and it's big trouble wherever you go. Okay, so you aren't going to play that way. So after knight takes e4, it's yeah, knight takes e4. It's knight takes e4, and then you have bishop takes. Bishop takes g7, getting the exchange. So you got two rooks and a bishop against a rook, bishop and knight, and your king is safe enough in this position. So that's why you can, in this position, you can actually ignore the threat on g7 and play a move like knight takes d4. But I played g6, which if you let the computer think for a while, thinks g6 is okay too. And a more human move, I might add. It's pretty crazy to think you can well, you have to do a lot of calculation to make sure that a move that it's safe to allow white to take on that square. So it's just interesting to note that it is safe. So there's the exchange there, and bishop e3. And now I took the pawn, takes back, and I take back. And right here, black has still got just a slight edge. Even though he's a pawn up, and it's just that white has very active pieces and there's a lot of threats, and it actually requires very precise play by black here to maintain the advantage. So rook e5 or rook takes e3 are the two moves here. So let's rook e5 is just trying to defend along the fifth rank here, keep the queen out. And what else is going on? So let's take a look at this rook takes e3 variation. Rook takes e3. You're giving up the exchange here. Rook takes back. And so now you've got a pawn for the exchange and king g7. But your king is a lot safer all of a sudden. Bishop e4 or rook e4. Well, let's say bishop there. Just not a lot going on all of a sudden. d5 can be played. Because if bishop takes d5, there's some kind of discovered attack here. Queen g5. Double attack on the bishop and the rook. Okay, so that can be played. And the move that I chose here, though, I thought I was coming back to defend. You do need to be aware of your opponent's threats and try to deal with them as best you can. I played the move rook e7. And if you look at this, all of a sudden white has a winning attack here. Well, 0.67, maybe it's not quite a win, but it's definitely a worthwhile sacrifice. Bishop takes. And now if I take back, then I'm losing, so I have to play king to h8. But here, let's show how the attack works. If I take, rook takes, and my idea was to defend with the rook g7. Okay, that is one of the top two moves there. It's about the same. Then queen b3 check, and I'm in trouble. So if I go to f8, I'm getting mated in 8, starting with the rook f1 check. So that's a bad move. So going to h8 is a logical try. Rook h6 check. And of course, if I had gone to h7, rook h6 check could be played anyway, and I wouldn't have this move to interpose with. That would just be mate. So rook takes h7 here, and king takes. These are all only moves for me, and then queen to f7 check. And you see that my pieces are all back here in this section of the board, and white's pieces are all coming in for the attack. And so even though I'm a piece down, I have no pawns around the king, and I'm just losing. So the upshot is, after bishop takes g6, I can't take back with a pawn. I have to play king h8, and and then the attack continues. Let's see, he can play bishop back to c2, and just he's got his pawn back, and he's got all these open lines against my king. It looks pretty good for white. So fortunately for me, he didn't find the best attacking idea here. And it looks like bishop takes g6 is really the only move that gives a significant advantage. He played queen h5, and now I'm back to where I'm okay if I play knight e5. However, I didn't. I played queen to e8, trying to defend this way. Knight e5, okay. It also defends this g6 point and has an added benefit that it attacks the bishop. So that would have been a better way to play. Bishop to c4 check, and now bishop e6 should be played here. And I didn't want to play that because it loses the exchange, but what I did play, king g7, appears to get me in a bit of trouble. Bishop h6 check, king h8 is the only move, and now you see white has an advantage once again. And he can continue his attack by playing a move like queen to h4. But here he made a blunder. He just miscalculated this one and tried to sacrifice on g6. So I think there's plenty of time on the clock, and this move loses the game. Basically, if you're in an attack like this, you think you have a promising position. You shouldn't just you shouldn't just play the first move that comes into your head. You should really take the time and try and calculate some variations here and see if you can find the best move. And here, the way to keep the pressure on it just turns out there's no breakthrough. I mean, you want to play these dramatic moves that break through when you're attacking, but there aren't any here that work. And so what you want to do in that case is just keep the pressure on, and queen h4 or queen g5. Oh, and now as it looks deeper, it likes queen h4 even more, so it's probably a good way to continue the attack. Even if you don't see an immediate win, at least you're not giving away material for nothing. But after rook takes g6, this is pretty easily refuted. I could have just taken with the queen here. I was thinking I had to take with the pawn for some reason, but I realized the pawn is hitting the queen, so that means there's no discovered moves with the bishop. And of course the queen can't take that pawn because I take back, which is what happened in the game. But after sacking the bishop or the rook there, he was probably losing anyway. He did not have enough compensation for the rook. So of course he should just retreat the queen here. Queen h4 once again is a move you could play. And then I can try bishop e6 and just give my king a flight square. So that's how the game ended, with the queen takes and queen takes. And hope you guys got something out of that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again later. Bye.